Alright, so with Ivy Tower here or on the way, depending on when this actually gets uploaded, and with a chance of LOAon making some big changes over the weekend, I decided not to really cover any huge major topics this week. I usually record the audio of my videos over the weekend and then edit on like Monday, Tuesday. But I figured since I'm not a streamer, let's have a look at my roster since you guys don't get to see it that much. Most of this was recorded before LOAon, but I edited some stuff post LOAon since there was some changes that revolve around some of the stuff. Starting off with the newest character, Soul Eater. Given the Soul Eater event and everything, I was able to try out both builds and make my choice there. I gave Full Moon a shot for a little bit. I didn't like it. It's very basic. It's a playstyle that you've seen on many different classes called like Igniter 3 at this point. My general issue with this type of playstyle is I don't like all my fun being condensed into a small window of playing the character. You're slow as shit, and then you're just trying to get your meter up to have your fun sicko mode moment for like seconds. I prefer to have a class and character that I enjoy playing every moment, and that's what Night Edge can be. Now, what makes Night Edge interesting and its own pro and con at the same time is what makes it unique. So basically, when you do pink skills, you fill up the meter at the bottom. When you fill the meter, you're forced into Soul Snatch. When in this mode, you do not have access to your pink skills, but your purple skills are buffed. Now, you actually do more damage outside of Soul Snatch, but again, you are forced to go into it. So this mode is seen as a forced cooldown situation. Now, what makes this interesting and difficult is while you're building that meter, it will deplete over time. If we go to the community guides and look at the rotation, this is your rotation to get to the Soul Snatch. But if you get cucked by a mechanic or a DR situation, or you're just doing your rotation a little slow, you're not going to pop the mode after those pink skills, and then it's going to be a bit of a DPS loss. Because basically you want to line a juiced up guillotine with whatever you can after that before going into Soul Snatch, so you can put them on cooldown while you're in that mode. You can actually fill the meter on whiff too with the pink skills, so there's some decision making to be made. Also, Night's Edge has a few moves that have a back attack modifier on, so it is a bonus to go for the back attack on this class. Not so much on Full Moon, they can opt out of it. But beyond that, I think the class is really fun, but it could just be the honeymoon phase still going on. Also, if you remove the tights from her leg skin, you're a monster. Next off, we have my Pistolier Deadeye. He's a little behind on my roster because he only has 3 pieces of Facon. He was a late addition that I added manually as opposed to using an event. I was basically sold on this class as playstyle due to Desperado and having 2 dashes. I thought it looked interesting and fun and just really stylish. It's just a fun, consistent damage class. Back attack is advised for a lot of skills, but not required. I just have a lot of fun playing it. My only real downside is a lot of your skills have a step back or a jump back animation onto it. So if you're not considering that when you're doing rotations on a raid boss or something with an AoE on the ground, you might just take a step back into it. I might try enhanced weapon in the future, but right now I'm just enjoying the pistols. Aeromancer, I gave into the peer pressure that like every Korean player said that, hey, this is a really fun class. It's like one of the most fun classes in the game, which yeah, it is pretty fun. It's very, very simple. I went with Wind Fury over Drizzle just because I like the buffing and also I'm not really a fan of casting generally. It does actually run Hitmasters, so there is no real positioning with this at all. I still don't agree with the fact that they nerfed it and then buffed basically everything else in the game, but that's my only real gripe. The only other issue is actually being addressed or was addressed in LOAon. This character has a lot of visual effects clutter and it gets in the way of seeing mechanics, so like the toilet flush for example, it can be pretty annoying to see things under it or anything that's going on around, so luckily they're giving us the option to tone that down. Scouter, I like both builds. I would play both of them if I could afford gems, but I can't. So I decided to focus Evo for now. 2 gem class, meaning I can focus on putting gems on my other characters as well. And also having your own shields makes things like prog really easy on potions. And again, I'm a cheapo. But in all seriousness, it is a really good class for that learning environment. It gives you that extra buffer so you can focus on other things other than yourself, since it has a simple rotation on top of that. And also, I've just always liked the class fantasy. I liked Iron Man. My complaints for Scouter is something I've said before. When transformed, your highest damage skill is 1, a front attack and also a counter. So your skill that you want on cooldown because it's your best damage skill is your only counter when you're transformed. So the only time you're really going to get a counter when you're transformed is if you decide you want to go for the front attack and you just accidentally counter. Counter should just be on W or A for the convenience of it. Evo is not a high damage engraving, like it doesn't bring a ton of damage to the party, so it should at least be a reliable counter class. Now in LOAon they did mention they want to do counterbalance, which hopefully Scouter is one of those classes that get addressed with this. When I eventually am less of a broke boy and I can afford gems in a build, I absolutely will play AT as well and just switch between the two whenever I feel like it. Next off is Slayer, and as you probably guessed, it's Predator. I figured having a full-time back attacker would have a little more variance in my roster, and Slayer can do that while being full swiftness and having pretty good reach. It was a logical choice for me, and well, she's good looking. It is a very comfortable back attack, and the only complaint I really have about the class is that it's more of a I just don't really like one of the skills, which is volcanic eruption. I don't really care for the longer animation and the backloaded damage on the second hit, so it can kind of be a bit of an annoying skill to use sometimes. Otherwise, how fun a raid is on Slayer kind of really depends on your party, or at least when you're playing Predator. Due to how your burst mode goes, or whatever you want to call it, it really depends on the boss and how fast your party is pushing to if your cooldown aligns with a mechanic or not, or just being chose for mechanics all the time and getting cucked. So you can have the perfect run where everything aligns properly, or you can have a really bad one and you go on cooldown when the mechanic ends. And I guess another kind of annoying thing about the class is that you do have to bring mana food if you don't have the right party comp, or your support is just there for a participation award. It's kind of weird. I don't actually mind back attack and raids, but they're the most annoying thing in Guardians. Like, I hate Guardians with back attack. And the last of my roster 6 is the Artist. I am doing my duty for my static to play one support. Artist was the choice because when I had all three of the supports at the same item level roughly, I thought Artist was the most fun. Going back into it and now I find no supporter fun, I probably would have went Paladin. Well, I shouldn't say support's like no fun, it's just not great. It's not something that stands out, it's not something I would choose to do. So a few things that annoy me when I play it. The first one being that one of your buffs is an AoE on the ground, which means your party has to gather in it. And then your party not being gathered around the same area can also cause problems for your shielding. Also, the Hopper skill, it has horrible recovery frames, which makes it really hard to get out of it and counter. Now, luckily, some of that is going to be addressed in the balance patch. So they are going to make the buff bigger, and they're also going to make it so there's less recovery frames on Hoppers, so you can counter out of it faster. So two of my main problems with it are going to be fixed, or should be fixed, hopefully fixed. The only other problem I have with the class is more of a people issue, and that is that people just don't eat your balls. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm being a toxic support only damage buffing just because I know people aren't going to eat the damn ball. When those things expire, it should just do an AoE heal dispersed out. So yeah, that's my roster 6, but I kind of want to do a 7th character. Like I said, I play my support for my static, but we have 2 free spots in our static still, so if we ever do get a support Andy and I can just actually drop my support, I absolutely will. So the candidates for that would be First Ascension War Dancer. It's a fast, high APM class that actually does damage. Again, once the buff hits, it's really whack right now. Now the next one would actually be Deathblade, mostly RE. Because of the player's skill ceiling being so high in the class, I'm actually curious to what I can do with it. And in the worst case scenario, if I'm not good at RE, I can just play Surge. Then we have Glavier. I really like that this class has basically everything in their kit when you play Pinnacle. I dropped it because I didn't like the old meter system, but now that got changed, and also it just does big dick damage. So it's almost like the opposite reason of why I would play an REDB. It's just easy, huge damage. Which is a weird thing since I'm not generally a ceiling chaser, but I think I just want a martial artist on my roster as well, between War Dancer and Glavier. And then we have Perfect Suppression, but the non-positional one, because I actually do like things like Grind Chaser and Spinning Weapon, but they weren't usable in the back attack when I played it, so I think that would be pretty fun. And now another edit because LOAon. Maybe this class will be Breaker. Maybe I'll play it and I'll really enjoy it, and it could be my 6th character on hold kind of situation. It's very much a wait and see scenario, but obviously that character is going to have a Mokoko event with it, which means he's going to get a free 1580 basically. There is no shot I'm using that express event on the other 4 that I mentioned because they're all 1540 plus already. And I guess for the hell of it, let's speedrun my other classes. Paladin and Bard, they died because I only wanted to play one support on my roster. Arcana, I played Emperor and Empress. I switched between them quite a bit, and then I ended up with Emperor. But I'm gonna be honest, I just got sick of everything just jumping out of evokes. Kyangle just greatly made me not want to play this class. Scrapper got benched because, well, like I said, I wanted a back attacker on my roster, not multiple, and Slayer was just the better choice. I absolutely hate playing Shock. It is one of the worst experience and most uncomfortable experience I've ever had playing this game. Gunslinger, I basically played the cursed build. Full swiftness, Dominion, time to hunt. Once Deadeye got the changes, I couldn't resist and I swapped. So yeah, the rest of my characters who aren't even 1540. Barrage Artie, I just found it pretty bland. Sork and Summoner, I tried them, and even though they do good damage, I don't really care for burst. I really don't care for casting classes in most games. And Sulfus, I don't really have an excuse for. I just didn't make the time or gold to really push it. Oh yeah, and Reaper. Nothing really stood out to me when I played Reaper, so I just didn't really push it. Even with it getting juiced to the moon here in the upcoming balance patch, I still don't have an interest in it. So yeah, that is my entire roster. As you can see, I enjoy fast action, high movement classes, high APM classes. This is probably because I enjoy fighting games, and also I played a lot of guns back in the day. I like my characters feeling fast and react. I pick my characters and rosters strictly out of fun, which is why I have characters that are high item levels and still abandoned. I just swap characters because I enjoy them. My current goal is to push things to 1610 as opposed to a 1620 push. With the overall value of leaf stones, it just makes more sense to go for Gargadis. But that'll be it for my roster. You probably won't see another video like this for a very long time because I don't think this will be changing up anytime soon. Besides whatever I might do with Breaker, but you know, we'll get to that when we get there. So that'll be it. Thanks for watching. Like, sub, and next week we'll get back to a more serious topic.